So there's this horror movie that came out back in 2012 sometime, directed by a YouTuber and also containing YouTubers. And going by the track record of quality when it comes to YouTubers making the switch to the big screen, yeah, it sucked. End of video, thanks for watching. Smiley, a 2012 horror movie directed by Michael J. Gallagher, known for such classics such as The Thinning, that movie about male pattern baldness or something, I don't know, I never watched it. It features a bunch of YouTubers, most of which who I don't recognise, because apparently I'm just as out of touch with 2012 YouTube as I am with current YouTube. And that's saying a lot, considering that I was more than likely consuming more of it back then. I distinctly remember the face from the cover of this movie and perhaps promotional material from around the time. Possibly it was a big deal 10 years ago and maybe it was heavily promoted. I can't quite remember. One thing that I do remember, however, is that I thought that face was kinda creepy and that I wanted to check this movie out. And spoiler alert, I didn't check it out and forgot about it for about a decade. No, I'm not really the type of guy to beat around the bush, more like beat off in the bush. Sorry. But yeah, me 10 years ago would have just been disappointed that the hype didn't really live up to anything. It's not a great movie, and it's pretty cringe-inducing at times, most of the time, and that's coming from a guy who does this for a living. So I mentioned this was full of 2012 relevant YouTubers, but what I didn't mention, that apart from this ballsack with a face carved into it, the other main thing that would have drove troves of 12-year-old girls to watch a movie that's not meant for 12-year-old girls is Shane Dawson. Yep, everyone's favourite, totally not controversial, not even once, favourite cat enthusiast, Shane Dawson. Hold up. 21 million views for an apology video? Maybe I should do something despicable. If you're in the mood for watching a good horror that wasn't created by YouTubers, featuring YouTubers, and main draw is Mr. Ballsack Face over there, then today's sponsor Shudder has you covered. Shudder was actually the first ever brand to work with me on the channel. Oh, Shudder, you poor thing. They're a brand I've worked with in the past, and a brand I've used before being anybody who could even get brands to work with him. You can stream supernatural, thriller, horror movies, and TV shows across all of your favourite devices with its weekly releases and hundreds of exclusive shows. Get access to just about anything horror, from original movies like VHS 94, The Boy Behind the Door, and Psycho Goreman, and hit TV series Creepshow by executive producer Greg Nicotero of The Walking Dead. There's honestly thousands of hours worth of good quality horror content to be found here, ranging from the classics all the way up until the newbies. Plus you're not going to see ads on Shudder, unlike my channel, right now, and it's only $5.99 a month, so you can't go wrong with that. It's got all the classics that we know and love, like The Wicker Man, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a movie that I've actually wanted to get to on this channel for quite some time now, Kill List. It's a highly requested one, and it's right there on Shudder. I ought to stop making excuses. Shudder's kinda showing me up right now. I love Shudder, you love Shudder, and if you don't, well, what's wrong with you? It's got everything for horror buffs like us, so try Shudder free for 30 days by going to shudder.com and use promo code BIGWILL. Do it or I'll tell on you. The movie begins with an immediate jump scare, just to let you know what type of trash you've set aside 1.5 hours of your time for.
I had to get your attention somehow.
Wait, so that little girl just went from sounding like the literal devil, straight back to having like a normal 9-year-old girl voice. What are they feeding kids these days? Quickly skipping over the fact that I think a priest is needed to deal with this demon child problem, the kid goes on to explain to her babysitter the urban legend of Smiley. You start a random webcam chat with someone you don't know, and instead of being exposed to their rather funky looking genital parts, you type in the chat, "I did it for the lulz" 3 times, and Smiley will appear behind the victim and kill them. Sorry, what? I did it for the lulz. Is that really the best thing you could have come up with to act like you're all hip with the 2012 internet lingo? You know what I did for the lulz? I made this video. You know how they should have had this urban legend killer appear? Linked to 3 separate videos of Shane Dawson being inappropriate around minors. She then goes home and decides that she's not seen enough unsolicited genitals on this random totally not illegal don't sue me guys video chatting website, where she connects with YouTuber and comedian Steve Green, known for such classics as Sexy Santa Poops Herself prank and Sex in Public prank gone sexual. Wait, how in the hell has this video got 12 million views and only 30k likes? I mean, I'm not to brag or anything, I'm just genuinely confused, but I've got videos with over 1 million views and way more likes than that. Sounds sus. 2012 YouTube was really something, eh? Anyway, back to whatever I was doing. Oh yeah, Smiley. Weird dude on the webcam is having a grand old time looking all weird and that, and then he whips out the old tried and true, guaranteed to work pickup line. Too bad I have to kill you. Works every time. Immediately followed by someone speeding up behind her and killing her, like he's one of those corny vampires from one of those corny vampire shows. And apparently this is hilarious, because the webcam guy has about the same reaction as 13-year-old me when I used to watch those people falling over compilations. Well, okay, maybe also present me as well. We then get introduced to our main character, Ashley, a college student moving into a new house where she meets her new roommate, Proxy. They decide to head out to a party, and on the way, Proxy starts to explain the concept of 4chan to Ashley, and that's when the realization suddenly hit me. This is gonna be a movie based about a bunch of 4chan stuff, and 4chan isn't gonna like that. 4chan didn't like that. They meet a guy who calls God, quote, retarded, because this is 2012, and I guess that's just what passed as comedy back then, before Ashley meets Shane Dawson's character, Binder. And honestly, I'm just as surprised as you that he didn't show up wearing blackface. Okay, I'll stop with the Shane Dawson jokes. Is what I would have said if these guys didn't just immediately walk up on him and call him Pedo Bear. You're making this too easy for me. That's a nickname that he was given after threatening to report a bunch of things that were shared around on the image board, and for some reason that I can't quite decide, he decided to show up at a party full of the very people who gave him that name. Like, that's clearly not some sort of quirky nickname his buddies gave him, because if it is, then I'd be awfully concerned. We then see that the guys from the party were actually the guys that had that babysitter killed back in the beginning of the film, and after watching the event unfold live on webcam, they all proceed to laugh hysterically after watching her death. Real funny, guys. Tobuscus is in it for some reason, because of 2012 YouTubers, I guess. He doesn't really play anyone important in the story, it's just kinda like, look who we got in our movie, you should totally come watch it. Remember Tobuscus? Remember when he and PewDiePie were like peak YouTube gaming? Ah, the olden days. The next day, Ashley and Proxy see a video of one of the guys from the party being killed by Smiley. Freaked out and just wanting to know if this is some sort of hoax, they decide that they're just gonna put this silly thing behind them and test it out to get it out of the way. Yeah, they offed a dude. He dead now. Binder explains his theory about Smiley to Ashley, stating that it's a manifestation of all the evil on the internet and that it's found a place to hide. This anonymous webcam site, because apparently Wikipedia just doesn't have the right ring to it. And she pulls out her phone to get his number, and he's got the look on his face of someone who's just had their first run-in with LiveLeak. So if this is just about the evil on the internet, why did they choose to focus on 4chan? Sure, it's a pretty intense place, but there's far more horrific places on the internet than 4chan. You know those stories you hear of kids not being able to watch or even mutter the words Harry Potter because their parents think that it contains some kind of dark mystical evil that'll turn their children into baby-eating heathens? Well, this kinda gives off that vibe. Later that evening, Ashley attends another party at the same house as last time, a party being hosted by guys who she was told post horrific things online. You know, like a certain type of content involving children. Because they did it for the lulz, guys. She starts to walk home after getting her drink spiked, and she starts to see Smiley. Like, dude's right up in her face, trying to give her a kiss with his non-existent lips. But it turns out that it was just a dream. Or was it, because her shirt is ripped? Being responsible for that death on webcam and having this run-in with Smiley has started to cause her mental state to deteriorate, which ends up with her having to get anxiety medication because she begins to hallucinate seeing him. But my favourite part is this scene where she jump scares herself after looking at a picture she drew the previous day. You knew that was there, lady. You literally put it there. I watched you do it. And speaking of stupid jump scares, this movie is basically 90% stupid jump scares. There's a sudden loud noise and a constant shock happening in about every scene. Someone in the window? Jump scare. Someone in the alleyway? Jump scare. Being confronted by her friend? You guessed it. Jump scare. Like, seriously, dude, give that piano a rest. I'm not sure how much more those keys can take if you keep constantly fisting them every 5 seconds. After one of those hallucinations, which I'm not entirely sure is actually a hallucination, because how do you hallucinate something that you're not even looking at? She confides in Binder that in fact Smiley is real and that she's responsible for him killing someone. And instead of being shocked that there's some kind of supernatural creature with a desk scribble for a face going around and killing people, or I don't know, maybe being empathetic towards a friend who's clearly very upset about this whole ordeal, he proceeds to say,
Are you serious? Oh, it's amazing.
I'm not sure how unsubtle you can get with your subtle hints and symbolism. It doesn't get any more, it was in your face this whole time, than that. He literally walks right up to her as Smiley before not being Smiley. For some strange reason, after that deeply traumatizing event of witnessing someone be killed because of something she did, she's like, you know what, I'm going back on that website that gives Smiley access to kill me. That sounds like a really good idea. That's not a good idea. So there's 2 possible outcomes for this scenario. 1, you become responsible for yet another death of some dude exposing himself to minors on the internet. Okay, well, maybe that one's not so bad. And 2, someone becomes responsible for your death. She knows that Control-C and Control-V is a thing, right? Someone could post that message 3 times in about half a second, and then what are you gonna do? Die. That's what she's gonna do. The rest of the movie is basically just Ashley descending deeper and deeper into paranoia and anxiety, with her smashing up laptops and having the occasional cry at the thought of some unstoppable supernatural being coming to kill her. You know, the usual. Binder comes over to give her his old laptop on account of hers repeatedly meeting the face of this table at high speeds, and now they're kissing. apparently. I don't know, maybe I missed some subtle hints of them having chemistry or something. They had no chemistry. What's even more funny is that he gives her this little nice guy speech about him being the dungeon master and the dungeon master never getting the girls. Wow, this really is based off the internet, isn't it? Proxy then gets Ashley to go check up on Zane after no one's able to get a hold of him. You know Zane, right? That guy who hosted that party at the beginning and became somewhat friends with the girls, but also proceeded to be incredibly inappropriate to them almost constantly, and is kind of a douche who I failed to mention up until this point, because up until now, he's not even been remotely relevant. Well, after showing up at his house and seeing "I did it for the lulz," smiley face, written in blood on the wall, she comes across Zane's corpse and does perhaps one of the most annoying, ear-bleeding screeches that I think I've ever had the misfortune of hearing. And that's like her 15th Banshee scream of the movie. I would fact check that, but there's no way I'm going back to check it. If you want to have some fun, get some friends together. Friends? You don't have any of them. Just kidding, I'll be your friend. And take a shot every time she screams, and by some fun, I mean some death, because, well, you're gonna be dead. She once again starts smashing up monitors for some reason, because by God, if there's a screen connected to some kind of computer, she's gonna sniff it out and obliterate it. She then takes his gun and returns home, where she has Proxy on webcam type the words into the chat that'll make Smiley appear. She's packing, and she's ready. Maybe a little too ready, as she ends up shooting Binder as he literally attempts to break into her house. I mean, he's clearly trying to do that, right? He didn't knock or anything like a sane person, he's just trying to get in there. Before Smiley shows up and finishes him off, kind of throwing a wrench into the whole urban legend thing of him showing up to kill the person on the receiving end of the webcam. Like, are we just making up rules as we go along now? Did we even have rules to begin with? She had no problem shooting the gun about 3 seconds ago when she clearly couldn't see who she was shooting, but now all of a sudden just decides to run away screaming, gun in hand, after having at least 2 perfectly good opportunities to kill the right person? What's that all about, lady? Smiley appears in her room, and apparently she's got no more bullets anyway, before multiple Smileys enter her room because she's extra screwed. But she decides to make their job a little bit easier for them by diving out of the window head first and going splat on the pavement. No, literally, there's a splat. I don't think I was supposed to laugh there, but I did anyway. And then we get the great big M. Night twist. Was Smiley really this evil, multiplying, internet IP hopping ghost? No. No, he wasn't. It was Zane, Proxy, Binder, and I think that babysitter from the beginning of the movie, and a bunch of their friends too for extra measure. I guess they're all supposed to be evil because they use 4chan or something? They then say that they're a part of the hacking group Anonymous for some reason, and that what they're doing is trolling.
One online community known as Anonymous often captures some of the biggest headlines for their hacks. Earlier this week, Hari Srinivasan recorded a conversation about its origins.
It was an accident, but we're still calling it a win for Anonymous.
Dude, when I think of trolling, I think of that 2mad guy who's off his rocker, joining random Zoom calls and driving people nuts. Not slowly mentally torturing somebody into thinking that they're being stalked by some kind of evil supernatural being that results in them taking a nosedive out of a 2nd-story window and high-fiving the pavement with their skull.
Amen, brother.
So they conveniently explain to us that the entire purpose of doing all of this is that so they could create an actual urban legend who will go on to inspire other copycats who will go around hiding in random people's houses, just hoping that there's the small, minuscule chance that this will be the right person who receives the message, "I did it for the lulz" 3 times in a row. But then the other M. Night twist, because oh boy, aren't we lucky getting 2. Zane sends Proxy the message 3 times as a joke, and you guessed it, Smiley appears behind her and kills her. So is he real? Who knows? Is he not real? Who knows? Do we care? No. I guess as far as YouTuber movies go, it wasn't all that bad. But there isn't exactly much of a bar when you're dealing with Fred Free, Camp Free, Smosh the Movie, Airplane Mode, and Laid in America. Some of the absolute classics of this generation. Make sure you follow me on my socials down below to keep up to date with absolutely no useful information whatsoever. And also keep an eye out for the release of my clothing brand started by me and my girlfriend, Morbid Minds. We're starting off with a vintage horror collection. Be hyped, buy my stuff. And a big thank you to my patrons, the people who continue to help fund the channel. A big thank you to Dom, Bort, Hunters263, Rebecca Pitts, Total Drama Rebooted, A Dandy in Space, Martin Brannan, Natasha Twyman, Rin and Whiskey, Nicholas, Pascal Mathis, Fighting the Pirates, Tajvia Santu, Richard McGowan III, Macy J, Reese Harford, Horatio, Jamie Thompson, Raimi Patterson, Chris, Michelle, Newcomb, Fabian, Dennis, Wade Knott, Ike, Mr. J2, and Monopogy. So once again, a big thank you to my patrons, and thank you to everyone else for watching.